My name is Kris Scopinich. I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at Mass Audubon, and my colleague Kate here will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Durkin Cook, and I work at the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust as the Stewardship and Education Manager. Good to be here.
So we're glad to be here this morning to just share a little bit about our work building climate action ambassadors through community-based land trusts. So just a quick overview of the session today is that we are going to be saying hello in just a second and kind of try to find out who's in the room. Then we're going to talk about land trusts as trusted messengers, which might be a concept that some of you are familiar with, but maybe not. We want to share with you the important role that land trusts have to play in terms of building climate action in their communities. A little bit about, we're going to focus on youth, that we described that in the presentation description, but it's not that we're forgetting about adults. Both of our organizations work with adults as well, but our session here today is really focused on how we can kind of leverage the energy and passion of young people in our communities to build a more positive and green future. Then we're going to run through a couple of case studies. Mass Audubon and Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust will just share with you some of the work that we're doing that we hope inspires your work or helps you think about how you might iterate if you're already in running programs with young people in your communities. We'll share a few key insights towards the end, and then we'll open it up again for Q&A. So it's no surprise, that the Earth is on fire. That we're in the midst of the largest, most grave environmental threat. But there's really, this is how we feel. It can be very scary. We can think that either we don't know what to do, or maybe we're trying to point at other organizations and think that maybe it's not really our work. What we do is we protect land, or what we do is protect wildlife. We'll let the Union of Concerned Scientists and all those folks worry about things like climate change. But the thing is that we can do something about it. We actually have a really incredibly important role to play in terms of building climate action communities. What I'd like us to do next is another quick icebreaker activity. And it has to do with the power of pictures and the power of telling stories. And so you're going to see a slide in a minute. Oh, I did not click through my slides.
I was just going to say, we're still on the Earth on fire.
No, you're not. So ready?
Okay,
don't fall up in a ball. We can do something about it. Oh, I missed my punchline. It's not PowerPoint. I actually have to click on the slides. So we're going to move into an activity called the power of pictures. We want to think about how storytelling can help us engage the people in our communities to become more active in terms of climate change. And so I'd like everyone to choose one of these 4 pictures. So just take a minute to look at which picture is most compelling to you. And I want you to think about, how does that image relate to climate change? For you, how does that image relate to climate change? And then I'd like you to think about, how would you use this image to explain climate change or to talk about climate change to someone else in your community? So you're going to choose an image. How does the image relate to climate change? And how would you use the image to explain climate change or to talk about climate change, to have a climate conversation with someone in your community? So this is where, actually, let's just stay in chat. And if you could just make a note of which image you chose, and just a real quick explanation of how you would use that image to talk about climate change, climate impacts, climate solutions, members of your community. Are people thinking super hard about it?
I think so.
All right,
here we go.
So here are the prompts again. Any other thoughts on how you might use, and you can think of, also click back to the images. Okay, great, here they come. That was just the delay. So the first photo, water encroaching on land. So this is Deb. Thank you so much. You use that as a conversation starter, yep, to talk about rising sea levels. Awesome, not awesome, the sea levels, but Barbara Rich, butterfly loss, and talking about the effects on wildlife and destruction of their habitat. Rita, public health, the child with inhaler. And Scott, the crumbled road. Yep, Anna as well, extreme weather. Not just that the road is crumbled, but what is that road, what is that crumbled road telling us about the state of things, about climate impacts? Yeah, and the child with the inhaler again, not only talking about the public health effects of climate change, but also what that means for our future. Great. So the reason why, thanks so much for participating in that. The reason why I wanted to give that opportunity to you is because the landscapes that we protect, that our organization steward, are solutions that exist. So when we're talking about climate change with our communities, it's important to think about all the stories that we have to tell as conservation professionals and as educators, and that the real solutions exist. And one of the best climate change actions is what we actually do, and what I am assuming those of us in the room are most passionate about. We know what the impacts of climate, we know why climate change exists, and we know that mitigation is an important aspect of taking action on climate change. But for us, the most natural story, the most natural way for us to talk about climate change and engage our community members on climate change is really talking about the adaptation side of things. Kate, my slides are no longer showing up. So do you see where I am?
Yes. Yep. You're on urban forests and Metro West.
Okay. All right. So salt marshes are one way that we know that salt marshes are a solution. We also know that urban forests are a solution. And the most important thing we want to let you know is that you are a trusted messenger. Is that as conservation professionals, it's really important to understand this concept of trusted messenger, that people believe the folks that they trust. And if your work is embedded in communities, you understand the impacts of climate change, you also can see the solutions, and you're part of the solutions, that makes you a trusted messenger. So part of what we want to talk about today is that, it's really important that conservation professionals take up this responsibility, because we are connected to these spaces. We are literally part of the solution. And so we have an important story to tell, an important addition to the climate change action story. So how can you become a trusted messenger? You can recognize your potential. You can exercise that potential in ways that are natural for you, just by simply talking about what you're passionate about. The exercise above showed how easy it is for members of our community to very quickly look outside, be in our communities, be on the spaces that we care for and steward, and very quickly pivot to being able to tell a climate change story. So we need to do that more, and we need to do that often. A few core elements of how we can do that well is to remember that it's all about what people value, what we value, because then our story is going to be authentic, and what the people who we're with and communities value. How we tell that story in a way that's not only about the impacts, but also about what we can do, which is, again, connected to our work. Because we know our communities, we can talk about what's happening right there in our communities, how climate change is affecting young folks and old folks alike in very direct ways. I have no idea where I am, Kate, because all of my slides are black now.
Oh no. Well, we just finished up the trusted messenger, and you concluded with, keep it simple, but most importantly, begin.
Okay, and so now I'm on core elements.
Yep.
Thank you. um, and so we also want to think about, so what do we value? How do you tell the story? And then we know, again, this localized focus, we know what's happening where you are. And the most important thing is we have direct pathways to engagement, opportunities to share with folks in our programs, members of our communities, what they can do to combat climate change. So a quick climate communications cheat sheet are these couple of things here, which is, again, starting with the value, sharing what your experience of your local environments, focusing on how we feel about it. I could see that again in your stories on those 4 quick pictures, and also most importantly on the solutions, and that we're all in this together. And again, as community-based land trusts, that we're there to support the communities in taking action. So I'm going to take a quick pivot to why youth and why this focus on young folks. So you can see this great, I think we're on a picture of a protest. Are we, Kate?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Thank you. I had to align it with a different file on my other screen. So I'm making sure that I'm where I think I am. So again, our focus today is thinking about youth and how are we leveraging the passion and the movement that has really come out of youth becoming more engaged on climate action. And a lot of folks look to leaders like Greta, but the important thing to understand is that there are many leaders right here in our own communities, across Massachusetts, in many different communities across the region. And again, we want to tell a couple of stories about how we can tap their energy to create more climate action in the communities that you all serve. So I'm going to just do a quick riff on a few case studies with Mass Audubon. Most of you may or may not know that Mass Audubon is a statewide organization. We operate wildlife sanctuaries across the state. We also have an advocacy department and a pretty large education department. We do have sanctuaries, again, here just gives you a quick map of where we are and where we do our work. And most of our work kind of pours out of where we run our nature centers. So the first program that I am going to share with you. Again, Kate, if you can tell me if I'm on the Science for Solutions slide, that would be awesome.
You are.
Thank you. So this is a program that we run with local high school students. It's a program called Science for Solutions. It was actually funded by a NOAA watershed grant called NOAA BWET. And Science for Solutions is very much based on the idea of getting students out onto local conservation land, in our case, Mass Audubon land, but also other properties that are nearby where we run our nature centers, give them an opportunity to investigate local ecosystems through the lens of local environmental issues, build science understanding, which is something they need to do as part of their high school curriculum, but then also become more civically engaged and engaged with community members, professionals like yourselves, to actually think about creating solutions to different environmental issues. So if we take just a quick deep dive into the Science for Solutions program, you can see this are the different communities where we are offering. Oh, it's not moving. Am I able to click slides?
It's okay. We are actively imagining that we're diving deep while we wait for the slides.
Okay.
Right now we're on the landscape shot with the water that says taking a deeper dive.
All right, super. Let's see if it'll let me go to a different one. No, the blue is not changing. So I'll just keep riffing. We run the program in a number of different communities across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the whole program starts by bringing in professionals like yourselves, local conservation and climate action heroes, and we actually start with classroom teachers. And I would say, aside from them understanding the different science content and getting to know kind of the local places that they can bring their students to, it's really about connecting teachers with folks like yourselves. Most classroom teachers aren't aware of the deep resources that they have in their communities that they can tap to enrich their curriculum and make it more community-based. So we spend a lot of time encouraging them to meet different local leaders like land trust professionals, municipal officials, local ecologists, and the like. Then the programming for the students start with what we call local issue investigation. So we work with the students and teachers to determine local environmental issues that exist in their communities, and we start digging in and doing research on those issues. We take them outside to do field experiences, bring them to lots of different ecosystems where they do ecological monitoring, participate in different community science projects. And then once they've kind of been able to wrap their minds around this particular issue and allow it to have kind of community context that's meaningful and relevant to their lives, then they apply that knowledge to solve identified community issues. And they start working on that project, again, with different community partners. Again, it might be looking at levels of sea level rise in their community and the impacts that that will have on their community. It could be thinking about wildlife corridors and a variety of different projects. Probably the most important part of this project is connecting back with the community. And that's where students create some either virtual this past year and in the past in-person presentations where they actually share the information that they've learned and they share their proposed solutions with members of the community. If I could move the slides, not sure why I can't. I think I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say I was going to try to pull it up on mine, but maybe try stop sharing yours first and we'll go from there.
Yeah, the thing that's weird is it's not even letting me stop sharing. You want to see if you can override me and share them?
Yeah, that's what I'll try to do. Give me 1 second.
Folks, we're really sorry about this. It's in a PDF, which what we were requested to do, and
all right.
Why don't you try that, Kate? You try to see if you can do it on your end, and I'll just keep sharing the program. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
In the case that we see here, this is a if you could see the slide, it's a group of students basically presenting in an open community forum about their solutions. And in attendance are folks like yourselves, different community leaders who are connected to building community resiliency, members of municipal government, school committee members. In this case, the city councilors showed up, as well as the mayor. And so it also gives the participating youth a unique opportunity to speak in front of, thanks, Anna, speak in front of leaders in their community, which is a really significant thing for young people to do in terms of building their comfort level in civic engagement later in life. And so it's really in this kind of presentation piece, this speaking to members of their community who are leaders, who have more authority than they do. It's a really important part of their development as youth leaders. And so it's we make sure that we have that component in the program. Any luck, Kate, before I shift over to our youth climate leadership program?
No. Oh, and now I'm getting some pretty significant feedback here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, is it echoing for you?
No.
Okay.
All right, well, our screen seems to be frozen. Our presentation seems to be frozen. So I am going to just keep on going so that Kate has some time to talk about all the great stuff that's happening in Lowell. So the second program that I wanted to share with you all, and I wish, since the slides aren't working, I really wish I could just stop sharing my screen, but it's not letting me do that either. So I could at least see you all, is our Youth Climate Leadership Program. And this is a program that has been building up a number of years at Mass Audubon. It was originally inspired by youth climate summits that were run out of a wonderful nature center called the Wild Center. They started this concept of youth climate summits, and we have taken it and expanded it to be a comprehensive youth climate leadership program. So what the program consists of is kind of developing a youth climate summit working with a group of young leaders who have already attended a Youth Climate Summit and then worked together as a team of leaders to design the next year's series of Youth Climate Summits that happen across the state in regions across Massachusetts. We launch with a Youth Climate Summit program where we gather youth together and then they begin to plan their youth climate projects, and then they're supported as they begin to implement those youth climate projects. They tap into local leaders like yourselves, they tap back into Mass Audubon educators and scientists and land conservation professionals. And then once they have completed their projects, we have a big celebration we call the Solutions Showcase, which again, virtual this year, but hopefully in person next year. All of the participating youth are able to kind of show off and celebrate the great work that they've done in their community. We invite family members, we invite community members, and just kind of build momentum on the power of youth engagement in climate change action. And then the cycle starts again, planning the next year's Youth Climate Summit with those youth leaders. So the Youth Climate Summit is a core part of the project. It's a day of community building. It's a day of learning together, workshops with community leaders and professors and climate activists and other youth leaders who are kind of further down the path. It's a day of youth learning kind of leadership skills and public speaking skills and getting used to talking about what they care about to professionals in the field. And really, we organize the whole day because it's planned by youth themselves to be all about the youth voice. So it's also as important for us adult participants to kind of hear their concerns, hear their passions, see where they're finding solutions and how they want to get more deeply engaged in their communities. It's also a day of planning. It's where, like I said earlier, it's where they start, it's where the seeds start to get planted on what their youth climate action project will be. And so we take them through a project planning workflow. They develop a kind of initial climate action plan that they then will take back with them after the time we spend together. And then they get to work in their communities. Again, ongoing check-ins with Mass Audubon staff and adult leaders in their communities. This is something that you all could help out with. It would be awesome. We could let you know where we're running all of these different youth climate summits and where our youth climate leadership teams are, so that you could tap in, or you could create your own youth climate team that could come participate in one of these summits. Would be really wonderful. But some examples of youth-driven climate action projects are carbon and energy audits of the school campus, replacing all the school lights with LED if they haven't been already, starting composting programs, actually like installing and advocating for solar panels on their school, building nature trails or outdoor classrooms. So you can see that it's a wide variety of projects. So why we think this model works really well and why it's growing over time and why we're continuing to invest in it as an organization and would invite you all to participate is because it really empowers the youth voice. It kind of brings them to the center of community solutions on climate change impacts. It focuses on the action piece, which we know for teenagers is a really critical part for them to kind of understand and be able to work on like their own voice and the way that they can participate most effectively in their community, kind of taps the energy of this age range and gets them to work. And the other thing we want to kind of mention is that climate justice is really foundational to the program. It's really kind of reframing that the impacts of climate change, as you can see, again, if we go back to those photos that we were able to look at above, is yes about the natural impacts, but we also want to keep it centered on the social impacts and the interdependence of those impacts. What's wonderful about young people today is they are naturally systems thinkers. And so this type of approach is really perfect for both their engagement and their thinking in terms of designing solutions. So again, I'm really sorry that I am still not able to advance these slides. And I don't know why I'm not able to share the screen. I'm gonna do a quick call out. If there's anyone that's like tech support on this call and you can help us, that would be spectacular.
I've emailed the admin to get some assistance.
Yeah, we know it worked before and it worked until about slide 30. So I'm not sure, maybe it's just a bandwidth thing, but I usually don't have any problem with my bandwidth here.
It booted me out briefly there, but I am back.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, Kate, are you available?
I am.
Okay, I don't see you, so I don't know.
Yes, I'm here, and I cannot share my screen. I have tried. I'm not sure if there's any way for you to stop your sharing. I even tried to log on through a different message. Um, so we
Here's what I'm
should
going to
see.
do, Kate. I'm going to log off to see, just to see if for some reason it's on my system, and
Sure.
then I'll scoop back in, okay?
Okay, sounds good. I'll be here.
Okay, because if neither one of us can pull up the slides, why don't you go ahead and start? If everyone could see the screen, I have a beautiful photo of a sunrise over an amazing grasslands habitat. It's very calming. I really wish I could share it with you. But we're gonna just I'm gonna look at the sunset. You should look out your windows, and we're just gonna let nature kind of take the cortisol stress hormone away.
There we go. All right.
All right.
I'll be here.
I'm
and I'll
handing
get
it over to
started.
you, Kate.
All righty. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kate, and I'm the Stewardship and Education Manager with Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. I, again, want to apologize for the technical delay. I hope that you all can still hear me. But yeah, I am here to talk about the role that Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust plays in the land trust community to address climate change. And again, thank you, Kris, for your awesome introductions. If you could see the slide right now, it would be a group of folks on a bridge at one of our properties. Oh, and I think Kris has solved the problem. But Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is an urban land trust. It is one of the few urban land trusts, and our tagline is creating community through conservation. Here we are. We're back
Yay!
at it now. Yay!
I should have done that 10 minutes ago.
You're all good. You're all good. Okay, awesome. And
You're
I
great.
can see in
Go
the
for
chat
it.
that people can see it. So yes, again, we are one of the few urban land trusts, and our tagline is creating community through conservation. And I hope that you can get a better understanding by the end of what this means by the end of our presentation. First, I'm going to go over a brief just overview of our organizational mission. We are a small land trust. We are in a low income, diverse community that speaks over 67 different languages. And it is not about just connecting people to the land. It's helping them understand the importance of this land better. So we do this through a variety of ways: the Concord River programs, environmental education, which I'll talk to you more about later, historic preservation, urban forestry, and land protection. So just cruising along here to dive into our historic preservation. You wouldn't often think of a land trust as owning a building, but we do, in fact, as one of our properties, maintain a historic house called the Spalding House, and it is a house built in the 1760s, and it was restored in 1999. This house is perfect based on its location for educational programs, and it is a home that has every era of lighting that ever existed, from whale oil to electricity. And we use this house for a program called Candles to Global Warming. Next, I'd like to talk about our urban forestry very quickly. We take it very seriously, being in an urban environment, and we all understand the importance of trees. So we are taking part in a program called Greening the Gateway Cities. And this means, we just launched it, this means that we will be planting 800 trees in Lowell where they're needed most just this year. So we're very excited about this. And again, we just looking at the pictures here, we also do urban forestry with our after school programs. They help plant trees sometimes in their schoolyards, and also through a housing partnership where first home buyers get a tree for their yard. So that's pretty cool. Now, a land trust, of course, we have land protection. We are an accredited land trust, and our property size ranges from thousands of square feet to 5 acres. So we do have small properties, but they're in very close proximity to a lot of people. And we utilize these properties to make the connection between land and their everyday lives. So it is community-wide, but we do have a strong focus on youth and climate change projects. Now, a large part of our mission, again, is creating community through conservation, and we do this by building community relevance through our programming. So climate change is built into everything we do, from our cleanups and wildlife tracking and a wide range of what we do. We always try to circle back to climate change and that significance. And by having this community relevance, it creates a stronger connection for the people in our community, and it makes them want to protect the land that they enjoy even more so. So again, I will get into a deep dive with why we're here today, our educational climate change after school programs and programs with our youth. But this would not be possible without our partners. Our partners keep our organization and our programming running in and out of the classroom. We are partnered with, of course, Mass Audubon, which I'm very grateful for Kris and our partnership there. We also partner with the Lowell National Historical Park and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And very recently, through the Lowell National Historical Park, we have become an affiliate organization through them with the Smithsonian Institute, which I'll get into later. It's very exciting. Now, we run our environmental education programming based on climate change in 4 primary ways. And I would like to emphasize here that this started small. We did not always have 10 different schools and 4 key programs. We slowly built up over 15 years. So we have our K through 8 program in 10 Lowell public schools. We have our Compass program, which is for freshmen at Lowell High School. We have our Trees program, which is a branch off of Compass, and it is designed for upperclassmen that have aged out of Compass. And we recently have the Environmental Youth Task Force, which I'm very excited about. It is new this year and very inspiring story. But before I get into a deep dive with these programmings, I wanted to make sure that there weren't any quick questions that we have about anything so far. So if you want to shoot those questions in the chat, and just keeping an eye on time here, Kris, maybe you could look out for those questions while I begin to transition to the next section.
There is a question I think is probably relevant to address right now. Sarah asks about engaging with students during COVID, and that she's had a hard time engaging with public school partners. And do you want to say, I know that your programs in Lowell are still running, the programs that I described are still running. We've been doing like most folks, going virtual and staying outside within the regulations. But Kate, do you want to say what's been happening up at Lowell?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we switched to virtual after quite a dramatic transition from taking many field trips with the kids and getting them outside. And we have since engaged in delivering them or utilizing the school programs to give them hands-on, like pieces of nature and nature journals that we can engage with virtually. And so we have the same thing. So they have some sort of hands-on component. And then also with the older kids, we have started a get outside challenge. And so with each virtual meeting, we have them visit properties in between our sessions. And for each property they go to, they get a point. And for each way of documenting their property, whether a journal entry, photos, telling a story, they get an additional point. So it's just a motivation to continue enjoying the outdoors, especially in stressful times like this. And I was happy to hear that our students have reported back to us that they're grateful that we did continue on through COVID, because it's been a great stability for them during the time. So I'm seeing more questions come in, and we have some resources on our internet, on our website that we can share afterwards, and we'll direct you to that site once we cruise on through. So talking about our impact, like I said, we started in one school once a week for 1 hour, and over 15 years we've expanded over time. So these are our numbers from our last fiscal year. We have over 5,000 hours of contact time with students and over 908 youth reached. So we started small. So there's like Kris said earlier, the most important step is just to begin in some way, and I'll give you some feedback on how to do so. So talking about our K-8 program. Now, these are young kids, and they have maybe heard from news in the background about, climate change and what's going on with our worlds, but they haven't yet understood how it could impact their community. And obviously, we don't want to make things dark and dismal with kindergarteners. So we help them understand, again, how it impacts their community directly, how they can become responsible stewards and get involved with citizen science. And we help them look at the climate situation as a scientist. So often we use terms like, okay, it's time to be a scientist. Let's record some information. So down in the bottom here, we have a first grader, second grader recording the temperature. And each session, we would record the temperature and compare it to past years and just get them to start to understand, like, oh, wow, it's really important that we notice things over a period of time. We also help them using something called Beetles. It is, again, it's a resource on our website, but it's called the I Notice, I Wonder, It Reminds Me Of. And we do this a lot with students because, again, we want to make sure that they're making those connections to their personal lives, and that helps prompt further discussion. Some other things that we've done, some of our schools have gardens that we've used as great tools to talk about the importance of compost and food sustainability and equity, and also pollinators. Of course, we have a child seeing a caterpillar for the very first time. And also with Mass Audubon Drumlin Farm, we have our animal ambassadors. And these, our partnership with Mass Audubon, they bring in live animals for the students to observe, which is a great mascot or animal ambassador to show why it's important that we protect these places, because these animals are affected by climate change, and that also affects us. And lastly, we have our tree here, which actually, I think it's one of the trees that we help them plant, and they're studying the bud bursts, the leaf fall, and the leaf out over time. So again, just ingraining in them that it's important to be a scientist and wonder and document what you find. Next up, we have our high school program. High school program called Compass is for freshmen only, and it begins the summer of their 8th grade year. So it again builds on that importance of establishing a community and getting them excited about learning and having them make lasting connections both with their environment but also with fellow students that are in the same position as them. They're transferring to our high school is over 3,500 students, so it can be quite overwhelming. The great thing about Compass, again, is it's part of a stepping stone system, which I'll talk about in our next slide. But in the Compass program, sorry, can we circle back? I got ahead of myself there. In our Compass program, we further these connections to the local land around them. So we like to think of it as applying climate science to their backyards. This property is the Concord River, just a couple blocks from their high school. And after school programming, we will walk there, and we can take water samples and talk about how source point pollution can affect and why water quality and accessibility is important. We also have them dip for macroinvertebrates, which we have a running log of the health of macroinvertebrates. That's something Mass Audubon helps us with as well. And we help them understand that climate science, it can be really small, but the smallest parts of those things really add up. So just looking at the health of the macroinvertebrates, and if something is not present, how that can have a domino effect. So yeah, we also help them network with other organizations as well, which then transitions into our trees program. The trees is a really neat story because it was not always around. Like I said, we started small, and so there are some students in the Compass program that started as freshmen, and obviously they eventually turned into sophomores and aged out of the program, and there was nowhere for them to step to next. And so the administrator said, you know what, come back as mentors for the next program. And yeah, we can help you mentor and get the students more comfortable. And after that, there were so many mentors that they're like, you know what, the mentors are more than the actual students participating in Compass this year. And they had the students had a great idea that said, you know what, let's start our own club, someplace that they can go after Compass and continue this learning. So that's exactly what they did. They started TREES, which stands for Teens Representing Environmental Excellence in Stewardship. And this is a great example of, you know, harnessing that youth power, right? If you open up the dialogue for them, and sometimes they can be very surprising at the depth of what they know about our climate, and they just sometimes need an outlet for it. And what better way to do that than to establish a system with their fellow peers. So again, we further their connections to their local land and their community, and we also start to implement more impactful projects within their community. For example, on the left here, we have a student, Amina, who has been with us since 8th grade and is now in college. And she's still with us. I'll get into that later. But she helped dig and design and implement a rain garden in the alleyway of her school, where there was a lot of stormwater runoff and pollution. And this was a project that the youth did on their own. They wrote for grant money, and they got access to this on their own. And it's just it's things like this that if you give them an outlet, they want to learn more about climate change. So we also help them meet with professionals, which is on the right side here. That is Gina Luster from the Flint, Michigan water crisis. And we also help them talk about food sustainability and waste in their school. And they expand this statewide. So for example, here, the Youth Leaders for Climate Justice is a statewide conference from Mass Audubon where youth groups can connect with other youth groups around the state. So they're both furthering that connection from local to statewide impact. And and which then transitions into our very next exciting point, which eventually led to a national impact. Like I mentioned before, our partners at the Lowell National Historical Park are affiliates with the Smithsonian organization. And after learning about what our trees group was doing, they reached out to us and they said, does your group want to be involved in a nationwide contest where students will be asked to implement a project based around climate change, most importantly, Earth optimism, and compete for a award towards their project. So students all the way from Alaska were competing for this. And this youth group, it's both trees and alumni from Lowell High School that have been in our programs in the past. And they put their heads together, and this was throughout COVID. So they needed to really adapt their project so that it could be reasonable during a pandemic. So they ended up making a Instagram page to help spread Earth optimism, which is the idea that, you know, like Kris was saying, people usually want to curl into a ball and the Earth's on fire and, oh my gosh, how can I even help? But Earth optimism is the idea that you can make a difference and there are things you can do every day. And that's what their Instagram posts consists of. So I put their Instagram, if you want to give them a shout out, I put them and see what they're up to and what they've been doing. I put their Instagram account handle in the chat, but they did win the highest possible award, which they are currently using to lead a virtual conference on April 10th for youth around the country and also in their neighborhood. So again, because of our partnerships, this is possible, but we've started small and we've continued to build our way up. Now, so the outdoor classroom, let's circle back to our land again. Again, as a land trust, it means more than just protecting the land, right? It's why are we protecting it? Yes, of course, we want it to stay beautiful forever, right? We want it to stay green and lush and pure. But we also want to encourage future generations to have that same feeling about it. And the way that we can do that is inspire them, connect them with this land, and have them really get their hands dirty and say and discover what's out there. Some of these teens and children have never seen an apple orchard before, never mind a salamander. And so when we actually take them to our land and say, this is so close to your home and it's a hidden wonder, they are in awe. It's really special. So so we help create an environmental education legacy by using our land as an outdoor classroom. Now, again, this conversation that we're having today is geared towards what we do with youth and climate change, but we don't just do it with youth. We handle it from all ages at our properties. So we don't just do environmental education programs, we also host free events for the public. Almost every single one of our events is free and they're geared towards all ages. So we use our land as a further enticement to get people outside and create that emotional connection with this land, because without that emotional connection, they're not as likely to help protect it. We are a membership-based nonprofit, so those connections are not only critical for the future, but they're critical to our organization as a whole. So So some of the things that we've done on our properties are bird watching, wildlife tracking. We've engaged in the local rivers with some fishing, how to fish in partnership with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We've done a winter solstice sunrise walk and create your own bird feeder. And again, taking a kindergarten class to the historic classroom and just talking about what was it like to live as a child back then. So it's again really important that as a land trust, these people trust us and our mission, and we want them to feel connected to the land that's so special to us that we work so hard to protect. And they're more likely to say, hey, have you seen this place? Have you seen this organization? And an additional way we do that is through our volunteers. So we have over 300 volunteers, and they have continued their loyalty to us even through the pandemic. We have both group opportunities and solo opportunities. Some of the solo opportunities we have are called our land stewards. And this is extremely critical to how our organization runs. So our land stewards are our eyes and ears when we can't get to the properties, and they'll just do what they love doing, walk around the property. Sometimes they'll take pictures we can use for social media. Sometimes they'll map it for us and help us make new trails and do some invasive species removal. We also have a fish ladder that we help monitor, and we're caring for 8 threatened baby blandings hatchlings right now that we are hoping to release. So we couldn't do this without our volunteers, which we help engage in this citizen science to just encourage that meaningful connection to the community. And people want to make a difference, and we're here to help them provide that outlet for them. I would like to end here with something that just actually happened a couple weeks ago that was so special for me. We have our student, Jayeli, who's in the back left there. She moved from Lawrence her freshman year and was really looking for a place that she could feel comfortable in. And she joined Compass last year. She is now a sophomore, and she has been a light in these dark times. She's met with us virtually and encouraged other youth to join. But when we were talking about climate change the other day, even when it was quite overwhelming talking about, droughts and extreme weather and so many, you know how it gets. And she just all of a sudden said, I really feel like my generation is going to be the generation that does big things. I want to get more involved. I want to involve my family and my siblings. There's just so much going on with our climate. And that's why I really like this Compass program, because it opens your eyes. So just by opening up our land as a resource and opportunity to our community, we are helping inspire and open the eyes of future generations. And we've had multiple graduates that have gone into the environmental field afterwards, and some of them are still with us today. Amina, that I showed earlier, is becoming an environmental engineer. So it can be daunting to think about starting, but we started small, and it's a domino effect. So you can do it too. That concludes my talk here, and I want to open it up to questions. And we could not do this without our partners, especially Mass Audubon. So thank you, Kris. Very grateful for our partnership. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A function. I can see some here. I'm
just going to go through these. I just want to close on that.
Oh, yes.
Before we go to questions, is that powerful quote. Thinking about, again, we focus today on youth and why youth are powerful allies. And this is some great info from the Strike With Us organization, and just, allowing youth to have a seat at the table. You could see through these programs, we hope, taking young people and their ideas seriously is really important. You can see how it's just embedded in all the programming that we shared with you today. Like providing help and where it's needed, but not necessarily, not that we're not in charge anymore. This is like, just like Kate described, this is about kind of making space for young people to find their voices, and where they can kind of move their leadership, because they are leaders. These need to be understanding. Sometimes they might not do it like we do it, and that's okay. They're probably bringing us to a better way of seeing something, or at least a perspective that maybe we weren't able to catch on to. Kind of the big message is step back and let them shine. A few key insights we would love for you to take away is that land trusts are trusted messengers. So it's really, really important to remember that. You can see all this as a testament. I'm so glad that Kate described that this has been something that Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust has taken an incredible amount of leadership in Lowell. We've been so happy to be kind of on this path with them as partners, and you can see how powerful it is and the type of community that they're helping to build around climate change action. The other thing I want to put out there that's just more general is that sometimes we may think that there's so many things going on in the world that land trusts are kind of like, an enhancement, that our work protecting land and bringing people to it and helping them reconnect with the natural world is like a Benny, it's a benefit. No, it is integral. It's not an extra. It's a necessity. First of all, access to nature is a human right, and it's a core part of how we build healthy and vibrant communities. So our work is as critical as the public schools, as healthcare. We are part and parcel with making sure that we have healthy and vibrant communities. And the big thing is, you can tell youth are allies. They're allies now, and they will be our allies moving forward. So we need to learn from them as much as they can learn from us. It's really a really important exchange. So, again, we know that that's what we have for you. I'm going to do something really fun. Just a second. Hold on. There's the sunset for those of you who may take you into the rest of your day. It's a Massachusetts landscape. I don't know if it's Mass Audubon or one of yours, but it's one of ours. That's all that matters. It's the people's. So this is our contact info, and yes, let's hop over to any questions. Do you want to grab questions, Kate?
Sure. Yeah, I saw a couple folks earlier that said, do you have any resources that we can share? And both Mass Audubon and Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust have resources on our website. I typed in the link just because I had it on hand for Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. We both have at-home education resources, which was developed primarily in COVID times. And we also have climate change education resources, and that's all in the What We Do tab on our bar here. So here's another question. What is the best way to get involved in Science for Solutions or the Youth Climate Summit to become part of a team or a host?
I'll put our contact info in the chat. It's probably longer than I can describe.
Yes.
But we honestly, we are happy to share resources. You can see that at the Lowell program, their teenage group also participated in a summit, and we've evolved the program to be an entire kind of year-round experience. So if you've got a teen club, a team that you want to put together, we also have resources to help you actually do that. Then they will be part of the fold. So you're invited to the party. The more the merrier. The Science for Solutions stuff, we're just wrapping up that NOAA BWEC grant now and kind of cataloging all the different curriculum and activities. And when we have that ready, that will be available as part of that project. So we'll be able to share that with you, both kind of virtual lessons, in-person lessons, kind of field investigation sheets, videos, the whole kit and caboodle. And look, and Kate's sharing some of the resources that they have there up on their website, and I'll put Kate's contact info in as well.
I don't know if you can see the Lowell Land Trust page. Maybe not.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, and it says Lowell High's Teen Virtual Environmental Youth Conference. Is that what you see?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. So I just, I don't know how it just now occurred to me to mention this, but our youth are running an environmental youth conference, virtual, open to all teen groups, anywhere. That's one of the beauties of things being virtual. It is Saturday, April 10th from 10 a.m. to 11:30, and they're going to have a career panel, interactive things that you can do. I don't want to give away too much, and some games too. So the RSVP link is on our site, which I'll put the link in here, but I just wanted to give you a quick visual for that as well. So, yes, there are.
Staffing, Kate. If you want to, how much staff do you have to manage all of this, and how do the partnerships work? So, do you want to talk first about all the programs up in Lowell? You're looking at her, and Sally, who was in some of the photos too, right? For the most part.
Yep. So staff-wise, full-time, it is myself and my executive director, Jane, at Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. We are a very small team that we also have about 5 part-time after-school educators that are primarily for our educational programming and our after-school programs. But we have had some volunteers train to supplement these after-school lessons. So although they weren't hired, we utilized some of our volunteers to help us with these programs. And some of our volunteers have a lot of many talents that we utilize as well. And so the different responsibilities for the partnership. So the partnership specifically, it is a beautiful blend that we're very lucky to have. So we, I don't know if you can speak more, Kris, to how that came about, but it was.
Well, you heard that Kate said it grew over time, and the initial event was we were doing some school programs in Lowell, and I applied for some funds from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, and I happened to be sitting at the same table with a woman named Krista McCauley, who was basically, in a very similar position to what Kate is doing now for the trust. And Krista and I were sitting next to each other, and I said, hey, we'd like to run some more after-school programs in Lowell. Who are you? And found out, who had met Jane, and we started literally with one after-school program, 2 days a week. That's how it all started. And I think Jane and I, who's the executive director of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, realized that maybe that was 15 years ago. And it slowly built over time. I think that, the way our conception was that, Mass Audubon is, as you may or may not know, we have a lot of educators. We have a lot of resources. We see 125,000, individual kiddos in schools a year, 12,000 summer campers. So that's a resource that we could bring. What we didn't have is like the incredible relationships, and we would never be able to. Why would we come into Lowell and try to be the land trust there? That's Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. So we just really forged a powerful partnership, really leveraging the different resources that each of our organizations bring. Definitely a lot of humility on Mass Audubon's part to really appreciate if you're all community land trust, the embedded relationships of actually being there are just invaluable. And having Kate there, literally, sometimes a walk away, a walk away from the high school. It depends on how far she wants to walk. Again, so, and then over time, starting to work with the National Park Service, there was incredible and opens up so many different opportunities, and then Fish and Wildlife. And a lot of this is because of that land piece, that connection to community. And, I like to think that, we're helpful and we're partners, and we're also just feel so incredibly fortunate to be able to work with Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. And I feel like it's very open, like the more partners, the merrier. But I will say that it's a real focus on what's best for the young people, what's best for the youth. If this partnership is going to help make our program stronger, help them connect to more resources, to have access to more mentors that they can tap, then that's a great partnership, especially with regards to our programs. You know, at Mass Audubon, we have one main staff person who is connected to our work in Lowell, who works most closely with Katie, but there are a number of others. But this idea of having staff that, you know, that get to know the community as well. You know, they're not necessarily locals, you know, like Kate is, but they know they're going there a couple times a week, and they know, you know, they get to know the land, and they get to know the different, you know, partners, and they get to know the kids. It's not kind of revolving door of educator. It's really important to build those relationships. But gotta know what you would add, Kate, to that.
Yeah, I also just wanted to clarify something. So although we only have 2 full-time staff members and a handful of part-time, we also have an amazing board of directors, which are a part of other organizations within our community. And that also helps, you know, branch out on some of our programming. And we're very lucky to have what we have. And yeah, it's a lifelong learning, lifelong growing thing to be a part of. So it's very, very awesome. And so for some of the resources I shared, I also shared our staff page just to, in case any of that would be of interest to you, and the variety of the board's backgrounds, and just showing how we pull from many talents.
You see that our contact info in the chat as well. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna take a village. So please see us as resources. Be in touch. We're happy to share resources. We're happy to share ideas, help you think through things. We need more folks out there helping to build the next generation of conservation and climate action leaders. So thanks
Absolutely.
again.
And if you have any youth groups, my email is again in the chat. So feel free to utilize that and reach out to me if you want to participate in our conference coming up, or even just meet with our other youth groups. We'd be happy to set that up. So thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and lots of fun this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.